because not enough people think about the total years it takes to put their students through school. What happens a lot of times is people come in and go, okay, my daughter got into Pepperdine, they got a $10,000 scholarship, right? So $40,000, okay, we're gonna use our $40,000, and then the next year, you're gonna have to do the same thing, right? And the following year, if you happen to have 2 kids and they are 2 years apart, now we have another cost, right? Another cost of education. So it's something that everybody should be thinking about. How's a family supposed to pay for that? Some people will use savings. I beg families to actually think about, people come in my office and they go, hey, we have some money to pay for college. I go, okay, well, what do you have specifically for college? And they'll go, well, we've got, 20,000, 30,000, 100,000, whatever it is. And I go, well, is that specifically for college or is that your life savings? They're like, it's our life savings. I go, okay, one thing is how long did it take you to save your life savings, right? It could easily be blown with 1 child. So that's something that you really need to think about what we're going to use to pay for college and what we're going to make sure that we reserve for our retirement, right? And also reserves. Some people use 529s. We'll talk about that. And how it counts in the financial aid formula. Also, UTMA's accounts. Who's heard of a custodial account like a UTMA? No? We'll talk about that though. So custodial account and how it counts in the financial aid formula. I always like to say you really need to figure out how to stretch the dollar a little bit further, not just use everything that you have and pay it off, and then, if you have multiple kids, you're going to run into some trouble. Okay, so let's talk about borrowing, because everybody comes to my office and goes, well, we're just going to take out student loans. So let's go over all the different types of student loans. Who's heard of a Stafford loan before? Okay, so let's go over the Stafford loans. There's 2 different types. There's a subsidized Stafford loan and an unsubsidized Stafford loan. The subsidized Stafford loan works like this. It's under the student's name only, okay? It's 1 point to originate typically. It is through the government. It's interest-free while they're in school. And 6 months after they graduate is when you need to start making payments on it. And at that point, whatever the interest rate is, like last year it was at 4.5%, the interest will start to kick in as well as the payments. Okay? If the student decides to go to graduate school or continue at least part-time through school, those payments can get deferred. Okay, the unsubsidized Stafford loan is under the student's name only. Okay, it's a federal loan through the government. And it's 6.8% fixed, and it will start charging interest from day 1. The maximum amount that a student can take out in a Stafford loan the first year is $3,500. If they qualify for the Stafford, the subsidized Stafford loan, which is $3,500, then the unsubsidized Stafford loan maximum that they can take out is $2,000. So a total for the first year of $5,500. That's it. They can do both. Now, under subsidized Stafford loan, put need-based, and I'm going to explain that a little bit later, and I'll show you. Okay, which means you have to qualify for it. Okay, and then the unsubsidized is non-need-based. Anybody can take that out. The second year, the maximum amount that a student can take out in a subsidized Stafford loan is $4,500 per year. It would be at 5% fixed. Okay. It's usually about a 20-year term. Yes?
So these loans and loan amounts are all safe for any discipline, like engineering or medical?
As an undergrad, it's all the same. Now, if you're thinking about graduate school, like if you're going into medicine, like I have a student at Boston University right now for graduate school, okay, and it's $72,000 a year. But because she's going to medical school, the student is technically independent when they go off to graduate school. So they're allowing her to borrow the whole thing under their name. There's different types of loans that they'll allow the student to borrow. That's with graduate school. Okay. Who's heard of a Parent Plus loan before? Okay. So let's go over those terms real quick. The reason why I want everybody to understand this is because they will always offer a Parent Plus loan. And a lot of times what happens is everybody just says, oh, it's a parent's loan, this is probably what I should be taking out. Here are the terms behind the loan. It's 4 points to originate. It's what? 4 points to originate.
Oh, isn't that reasonable?
Yeah. What? Yeah. So it's 4 points to originate. You can thank the government for it. It's the government loan. So it's 4 points to originate. It's 7.9% fixed. And it's a 10-year loan. So the payments can get pretty high as well. So you got to be careful with this. Also, they just changed it so that you can defer the payments out until after your student graduates. But the problem with it is that it's accumulating 7.9% fixed the whole way through their education, their undergrad education. I don't like this one, just so you guys know. The reason why is because, let's say your student does go to Pepperdine and they get $10,000 of a scholarship. And it's $50,000 for the total cost of attendance. So they go, you can take out a $40,000 plus loan, and the payments are roughly about $400, okay? The second year you go, and they're like, hey, congratulations, we're gonna give you a $10,000 scholarship for your student. You take out another $40,000, what's our payments towards the total amount of plus loans now? 800, and then the third year, 12, and then the fourth year, exactly. And then on top of that, if you have more than one child, those can start to stack up on top of each other, and either one or two things will happen. One, parents can't afford the monthly payments for the plus loans, or two, they're not going to let the parent borrow anymore because they do a light credit check, and at a certain point the debt to income ratio can be too high, right? And they won't allow the parent to borrow the money anymore. So that's just something to think about there, okay? So those are typically the ways that you can borrow for an educational loan. There's one more. How many of you have seen maybe on like Wells Fargo or Chase or any of the bank's websites or student loans? Okay, so a lot of people go, well, I'm going to have my student take out student loans. Where can we go to get it? And they'll go to Wells Fargo's website and they'll go, hey, we're funding your student's education. We give them a student loan. Here's how it works. What's the one thing that you don't see on the advertisement? The interest rate. So any private lenders, all of the interest rates for them will be variable. So it's a big concern of mine because right now, a student can take out a loan, but due to lending restrictions, they don't have enough credit, so they're going to want someone to co-sign, typically their parent. So the parent co-signs, and that loan's in their name too, right? And it's a variable loan. So right now, it could be about 4 to 6%. In my concern, since it's 20-year term, right? That over the 20 years, it could get as high as 13%. Who knows, whatever the cap is. And typically, it's like a 10% or higher cap right now. So just please be careful of those types of loans. And that's the reason why the government took, I don't know if you guys heard back, but the government's going to take over the Stafford loans again. Because some of the private lenders were actually servicing those loans. And what happened was, since they would max out on the Stafford loan, right, then they would go, oh, I still need money to send my child to college. So the private lender would go, okay, well now we're going to let you borrow from our line. And then it was getting confusing for people. So then they started taking out all these variable loans, and that's why you hear about how the student loan amount in our nation is larger than the credit card debt. Did you guys hear about that yet? Okay, yeah, it's larger than that right now. If you just Google it, you'll see. It's pretty astronomical. So those are the ways to borrow for college. You really need to plan it all out if you're going to think about borrowing in any of those types of loans.
So the student loan is a variable loan, it's not fixed loan. It's not fixed interest.
Correct. If it's through a private lender, it's not a fixed interest rate. Yeah, they'll all be variable.